Before there were cigarettes, before there were brands, there was the leaf. Tobacco is one of the oldest forms of spirit communication known to humanity. Long before modern times, it was understood as a living messenger, a way for human intention to travel beyond the visible world and return with meaning. In the oldest traditions, tobacco was never a habit. It was a bridge, not something used to escape life, but something used to speak with it. Our ancestors knew breath as spirit itself, and smoke was breath-given form. When the leaf touched fire, it awakened. When guided by breath, it carried thought into the unseen. In that moment, intention became vapor, and prayer learned how to rise. It was never about getting high. It was about clarity, connection, making the invisible visible. That's the memory the leaf still carries. Radio cigars. Radio cigar. Radio cigar. Radio cigar.
Right, peace to the family. Still waiting on Topcatz. He said he bought a new mic, so it's taking the brother a little longer. That's what the wait was on, but I said let me get on here because it's getting late, and at least chop it up with the people for a couple of minutes before Topcatz get on here. Oh man, I was outside with my kids. Just got home. What's going on with y'all while we wait for Topcatz? What's going on? It's a good show tonight. It is the Siberian Destiny Swap. Real good show tonight. So I definitely look forward to hearing what the brother Topcatz got to say. You know, there was a serious. I mean, man, listen, man. Our people we ain't trying to hear no more. We are not trying to hear no more when it comes to this land. When it comes to this land, oh man, everybody that's been putting in the work, globally, people notice. And I said this the other day. I know for a fact Jesse Jackson passing away was symbolic, man. That was real symbolic, cosmically speaking. That was the end of an era. Represented the end of an era. Definitely an end of an era. Somebody said, "Would you mind posting Yeah, I'll post a link. I'm gonna post a link to the cigars right now. But what is going on with y'all as we wait on Topcatz? What's going on in the news lately? So I heard somebody, I think I seen B-Dell or somebody say that Trump was talking about an alien disclosure or something. Yeah, I just posted the link for the cigars. I'm gonna pin it at the top. Yeah, but what's going on with that? Is that true? While we wait for the brother Topcatz. Yeah, this show is brought to you by Radio Cigars family. Make sure you donate to get get gifted your radio cigar. Make sure you donate. I just posted the link. He about the Diamond said he about the okay. Damn, there's so many fake articles out there. I didn't know if it was real or not, but I get shit. Damn, it's real. Wow, this shit is, man. Oh man, what they did to a brother in Grand Rapids? What happened in Grand Rapids? What happened now? What happened now in Grand Rapids? Rich look hydrated. Talk about 3-hour Atlas again, but going in reverse. After we donate, do we email you still? No, you just leave your address in the notes section, and I'll send it out. Actually, everybody who ordered the last 2 weeks, week and a half, on another police shooting, oh man, yeah, I'm sending out everybody who ordered within the last week and a half or so. Week and a half. The orders is going out tomorrow actually. But yeah, just leave your address in the note section. It's a donation of 30 or more. Yeah. But yeah. I mean, wow. So much. I can't keep up at this point. I'll be on TikTok. I kind of left Instagram alone for the most part. I'll be on TikTok watching, keeping up with everything that's going on, and that's about all But I can't hit up every social media because it's overwhelming at this point. It is truly overwhelming at this point. Truly overwhelming at this point. Somebody said I had a weird experience with AI music. What did you have? What experience did you have? Tell us what happened with you in AI music. What happened with you in AI music? I'm curious to know because there's so much of it out there. You know, you gotta I see somebody just placed the order for sent a donation for the cigars. Yeah, but let me know what experience you had with AI music. Somebody say, yo, you gotta get Al Keebalon back on the show. It's been a while. Yeah, definitely. It's a couple of people who haven't been on in a while. Oh man, a couple of people who haven't been on in a while. I gotta get back on. You sent money last. I don't even think I had cigars last May. Yeah, I did not even have. I don't know. I might have because I'm not sure, but text me, email me to see what the hell is going on with that. Yeah, email me, sis. Let me see what's going on with that. We're looking at that. I just posted my email, sis. Email me now. So when I get off the show, I'll investigate it immediately. Yeah, I just put okay, here go Topcatz. Yeah, but email me and I'll investigate it to see what's going on immediately and take care of you immediately. Because like I said, I got orders going out tomorrow. So, if I see you really did, I could take care of you right away. Topcatz, Big Chief, the legendary.
Turn up.
Legendary. Man.
What's the deal? Back in the Empire, man. Back in the Empire.
Back at the Empire.
They what they looking for right here.
There you go.
Y'all gonna get some Honduras cigars, man.
There you go.
Radio cigar, you feel me?
There you go. Topcatz is with it. What's going on, my brother? How you doing?
Oh man, I'm all right, one day at a time.
Indeed. How's your year been for you so far, my brother?
Oh, it's been cool, just pacing myself, getting ready for the new year next month.
Yeah,
we're gonna turn up.
There you go. The work that you are involved in, brother, is very important at this time. So many people are waking up to America and what America means to so-called African Americans. Jesse Jackson just passed away. A lot of people feel as though that's cosmic symbology at its finest. That term has been put to rest along with the brother. May they both rest in peace, but it's time to move on. We got a good show tonight. I was on TikTok and everybody's talking about, how the Siberians ain't them. They ain't them. And we've been, it's a big destiny swap going on and we've been scammed big time. And, I said I had to I want to bring Big Chief Topcatz on here and let's talk about this. Because you know why? I want some documents. I want some scholarship, some books, some something. And I know you come with it, brother. So let's get this on, brother. What is going on?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's a new era, and and a lot of attention is here on America. For so long, we've been, programmed and conditioned to look outside of America. You feel me? And by us doing that, we really kind of played in their hands, you know. So, and it took us out of our square. You feel me? And we so far away from our birthright now that it don't make no sense, you know. For so long we didn't know who we were, but you know these different terms. Negro was taken away in 1969 and replaced with black, and Jesse Jackson came in the 1980s and said black is baseless and it don't fit our people. So he came with the term. He took on the term African American, and so now we're in the day where we're looking at our records, following our family history, and really finding out who we were, you know, to the point. Watch this, Rich. Have you heard about the Native Americans going to the vital statistics saying they want to sue because they want to take away genealogical records?
Nah, for real?
Yeah, you know, that's what they got. That's what they have going on right now. They want to take away genealogical records because they say we're using them to say that we're the Indians. So they say like we Destiny Swap. Yes, sir. That's what's taking place right now. So what happened is they can't find themselves in the paperwork.
Yeah.
We can find ourselves. So they want it taken off, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I didn't know that. That's crazy. I mean, shit. You know, we've contributed. I mean, it only makes sense. Well, I'm just, you know, I ain't gonna talk. No, I want you.
No. Go ahead. It's okay.
No, I'm just saying, like, it only makes sense what's happening right now, and it only makes sense that we are who we say we are, considering everything we've been through, and considering all the contributions, considering the creativity, everything we come up with. We're definitely the main characters in this movie. You know what I'm saying? And if they was who they said they was, they would be making a lot more noise than what they have made. Listen, you leave us alone, Topcatz. If they leave us alone, Topcatz, we start inventing shit. We come up with Black Wall Streets in every different state in order for them, in order for whether you want to call it the black elites, the black royal bloodline, or the white man or the pale man, or whoever it is that's doing what they're doing, these families, in order for them to keep us where we at, they have to have their foot on our neck 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
If they turn around for a second, a nigga that invented this, we running this, we running that. All of a sudden, we got a Michael Jackson who's got control over the whole world just through music. They have to constantly. They don't have to monitor other groups like they got to monitor us. They got, oh shit, well, put drugs in the niggas' neighborhood now. Okay, do this now. Do every decade is something new they have to do to a specific group of people on this planet. There has not been one decade that they took off, brother.
Not at all.
Other groups, they be chilling like a motherfucker. Man, listen, the motherfucker, they gotta keep their foot on our neck, bro. Because they know what time it is. And the fact that they got to move like that let you know who we are, brother.
Exactly. So, you know, when we look at the U.S., the existence of the U.S. 1776, they have been fighting most of the time. They have been building this U.S. and they've been fighting against us. That's where we get the laws, the black codes, the Jim Crow,
all of that.
That's why they're monitoring us like that, because
every decade is something new. Every decade.
You know, in the civil rights, they kind of started getting a hold on it in the civil rights, but with help with people like you spoke of, Jesse Jackson and others, you know.
Right. No, indeed. So how did this thing start, Topcatz? You got a presentation for us tonight, or?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Come on now.
how did this thing start? Where did when did the Siberians come over here? How did they get the label America? Like, I need you to connect the dots for me tonight, my brother. And shout out to everybody else putting in the work. Dane Calloway, Rod Hayes.
Shout out to Rod.
Tariq Nasheed. So many people out there. Professor Kaba. So many people out there that I know that's putting in the work, letting the people know what's what. And shout out to all of y'all.
Yeah, shout out to the Aboriginal, shout out to AP, A1, all the fam over there too, man. Everybody that's been put in this work years, even before I got here, you know.
Man, yeah.
Voodoo dog, shout out Voodoo, I didn't know, you know, turn up.
Hakeem Bey. I remember Hakeem Bey way back in the day. Shout out to Turtle Gang for putting me on game with a lot of things. The Moores brothers, Sharif Bey, all the Moors out in New York for doing what they did. Shout out to all of y'all. Shout out to all of y'all. But go ahead, brother. I'm gonna let you do your thing, my brother.
All right. You ready to rock out?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I got 250 in the clip, but I'm gonna slide fast. We're gonna slide fast. Peace. Shout out to everybody in the building. Let me get that down. All right.
Shout out to Taj, Asir.
Taj, definitely. Taj, Asir Dugatil, you know.
Can't forget Asir.
Yeah.
He been on it. When I met Asir with a feather in his head. With a feather in his head. You know what I mean? In 2004 or some shit. In 2005, something like that. I met him, he had a feather in his head in 04. So shout out to Asir.
All right, shout out to bro Rich too, man. We want to appreciate you for giving us a platform and even have interest in this topic, man. Because for so long we've been beating this drum, and too many people weren't paying attention. And you know, now it's a new day. You know, even with like Tariq and his group, you know, in the beginning, you know, they were pro-African slave trade and you know connected with this black term. But then now today, you hear them speak. You know, they're doing their genealogy, like you say, it's a lineage-based group, FBA, which is basically a genealogy group, same as the Indians. So everything is coming together, and everybody in America is saying that we gotta protect this land. You know,
real quick,
delineate. Yes,
you seen the video? Sonetta find out that his family was.
Yeah. He said on the video, "I gotta call Topcatz and apologize."
Yo, Sonetta was talking so much shit about y'all for so long. Sonetta was calling y'all pretendians. The motherfucking pretendians.
Yes, he was.
Sonetta met his family. They're like, yeah, we such and such. Sonetta's like, word. So
on both sides, you know. Well, now
both sides.
Both sides. And then his mom's side, he got Cherokee from South Carolina, and he got the tribes coming out of New York. Yeah.
Man, yeah. What a time to be alive, y'all.
Yes, it is. We actually ushering in a new paradigm, man, and watching it unfold. So a lot of talking points for slave trades and different things like that. We're gonna speak about it a little bit in the story right here.
All right. Let you do your thing, my brother.
All right, let's turn up.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button, family. That's very important. Make sure you hit the like button. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We're about to have a great presentation. Let's enjoy ourselves on this Friday night. Let's go, family. Let's go.
Hey, shout out to everybody in the Empire, man. First off, man, before we get started, jump on the like button, man. Make sure y'all tap that like button, man. Make sure y'all get some flames in the chat, man. We finna turn up on this Friday night. Shout out to the bro Rich for making this happen. Y'all ready? We ready. Let's go. Let's walk.
Indeed.
All right. So when we dealing with this whole situation of who are the true American Indians, as I spoke of earlier, right now we have Native American tribes actually trying to go to vital statistics and things like this here to get the records taken down. They want different ancestry or genealogy platforms to be taken down because they can't beat us in documentation. And documentation beat conversation. Now, yeah, it's true we've been colonized, you know, through religion and school, but the same thing happened with them. The difference is we didn't wear our scars, you know. A lot of them, they have free land, they get checks from the government, and they're still not able to build anything for themselves. I'll give you an example. 1855, my family signed a treaty in the oldest reservation in Texas. Now today, they end up with all of East Texas coming down, and now today they're reduced down to 3 miles. They only own 3 miles of the land because they have not been able to make nothing of themselves. Now, if they would have gave us or put us in that situation, it would have been a different story. We would have built a whole new North America. But this is one of the reasons why we don't qualify for reparations, even though they're old. Now, 1828, we go to the Noah's Webster Dictionary. American. What was the definition of American? A native of America. originally applied to copper-colored aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. And right here, you'll see that they're talking about us. It's the 1800s. We'll figure out when that's going to change. Now, when we look at first contact, I think we're going to break it down into sections. When we go down to first contact, you have the Olmec people. Now, this right here has been a story going around. They found melanated people here. The scientists and anthropologists actually said these were people of Negroid bloodline and not Asiatic. Now, this was important, or Mongolian, this is very important because all of the bones and excavations that they did actually came back to melanated people. Now, the Olmec would be one of the most popular. You also have what's called the Toltec people. When I was down in Tula, Mexico, there's a place that the Toltec occupied. The tour guide told me that the Toltec actually come from Utah. Now, I used to be in Salt Lake City, Utah a lot, so I was already familiar with this history. They also have Hokum down in the Arizona area, 20 miles outside of Phoenix, Arizona. These are some of the sites they built right here, what is called these are the Temple of the Warriors. This is a photo that I took when I was out there. This is a photo when I was standing there next to them. These are recreated models of these, but they're called Quetzalcoatl warriors, you feel me, or Atlanteans. These are the Atlanteans right here they spoke of. Right here we got the Chichen Itza. We had the Temple of the Warriors. You had the Maya and the Toltec coming together. We do tours to this place right here. This is Chichen Itza down in Mexico. This is me at Teotihuacan, pyramids down here, and a lot of these people want to know who built them. Well, they in areas where it was populated by melanated people that look like us. So this is Teotihuacan. Hey, Rich, this is the pyramid I was talking about when we talked the other day. Huge.
Okay, right.
Right here's the Bonaparte Mayan site. So just like the Egyptians and other cultures, it's hard to beat them when they have primary sources when they left themselves. You know what I mean? And I remember Dr. Kaba say that the Egyptians left photos of themselves because they knew later someone would come and try to change or destiny swap. And that's the crux of this information we're gonna bring today. Right here we have what is called the Florentine Codex. Again, where we see melanated people, and you see right here people that is coming in to invade, and we just pick them up by their hair, pick them up by the throat, and put them in bondage. This is warriors holding prisoners. This is in the Mendoza Codex. Right here, this is a site where you see chiefs and melanated men. Also, this is the Conquering Warrior Murals. More Conquering Warrior Murals. This is in the second room of the Bonaparte mural. Most famous paint of all of the Mayan world, the mural of the battle. At the top, the whole scene is framed by a series of figures and symbols, star constellations, and brown spots that probably represent wooden beams. But again, this is another picture that the ancestors left for us today to use to fight against these oppressors and people who trying to destiny swap with us. More photos right here, and then we'll get out of here. But right here was really important. If you see these people, they have dreadlocks. They have dreadlocks, and then these are people that are captives right here who are on the ground. This is an invading party, and they were melanated as well. Again, right here, Bonaparte Murals, room 2. This is King Chun 1 and captives. And again, they put them.
Where are these pictures again, Topcatz? Where is it?
This is the Bonaparte Murals. These are in Mexico. These are in Mexico right here, and these are depictions that they left to themselves. So this is very key. You know what I mean? A lot of people try to say they came from Africa, but these people built these beautiful temples, and they left their story on the walls, same as they did in Egypt. Okay, right here, this is a picture of Aztec Tenochtitlan, Mexico City. Today, Mexico City. Right here, this is a depiction of Montezuma, and this building behind him, I have it in real time. I just didn't have enough time to put it in for the video. Right here, this is me at the Anthropology Museum in Mexico City, and this is an Aztec depiction of an Aztec. But if you see here, he's actually a melanated person. So for all the people who feel like the Aztecs are melanated people, I mean light-skinned people, Mongoloid, or what they call Hispanics today, which are really just mestizos. They are a amalgamation of different bloodlines, and that's what we get today. People called misnomer as Mexicans, but really they're Hispanic. And the politics in the U.S. surrounding the U.S. right now, they're bringing them into what is called Latin. So for the first time, they're calling these people in Mexico, California, New Mexico, all of these states here. They want to bring them with the Latino. If you see Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl, all of this is a push to bring these efforts for it. You know what I mean? So, but as we look, we see this is a depiction in Mexico City, and that museum actually writes the history for the curriculums that are put out throughout Mexico. Right here we have in the islands. So the story will start with Columbus, the Spanish coming to the islands. Well, these are the people that they seen when they first got there. And this is Guyana, all melanated. Right here, these are the Peruvian people. Right here, we have the Peruvian mummies with the long dreadlocks come down to the feet like a Rasta man. Oh yeah, you never seen that one right there before?
Nah,
Yeah,
I ain't never see that. That's wow.
They also had gold teeth. Yeah, they also had gold teeth. Peru led the gold trade in the past. And they had a drop off in Tulum and other Mexico areas in Mexico and the Yucatan, which had pure copper and pure silver, but the gold they had to go to Peru to get it. Right here is the Spanish coming into the Peru, and this is Charles the Fifth, Carlos Quintos to be his name, and this is him depicted on the Peru list. He's on the Peru King list right here. He's a melanated man. Now, I know we all familiar with Ivan Van Sertima. Ivan Van Sertima, and they came before Columbus. In one of his lectures, he always spoke about Columbus ran into Africans, and the Africans told him that there were people traveling from the south trading gold-tipped spears. Now, he tried to make it as though it was an African situation. Now, for people who really study or know the game, they know Ivan Van Sertima didn't have any primary sources to that. He actually got it from word of mouth, secondhand, third-hand information, and he brought it out. Brother Reggie, who said he knew Ivan Van Sertima, he also agreed that Ivan Van Sertima work wasn't first-hand account. You know what I mean? So going into that to say that actually took place. The people that was traveling from the south of Haiti trading gold tip spears were actually people called Timucuans, who come out of the area of Florida. And right here, we'll read this in the book, Early History of the Creek Indians, page 357. Come in the weapons of the Timucuan farther west. Elvis says that the bows were very perfect. The arrows made in certain canes, like the reed, heavy and so stiff that one of them sharpened will pass through a target. Some are pointed with a bone, fish sharp like chisel, others stone like diamonds. Greater number to strike upon the armor. So these go-to spears actually, and the bows that they used were so large that, and they were so accurate with it that it'll go through your armor and come out your back. So they had the hollow tips that come through the vest. But Leimoni speaks about the arrows with gold heads sent in by a Frenchman. The Frenchman ended up getting it from the Western Timucuan tribe. But they were, he said they were copper. These arrows was not poison, quivers made the skin. So we actually get them coming from down here. If you look here on the chest plate, this is the depiction, the whitewashed version, right here is the true version. So if you see the chest pieces, the arm, yeah, this is the true version. Now he's known as the Moor with emerald clusters. He's in the Green Vault Museum in Germany. And at the bottom, you see the statuette was actually based on images of indigenous Americans. Okay, and so these are Timucuan people. Timucuan society had light brown and dark skin in appearance. So their hair was black or very dark brown.
I need to get a chain like that, y'all. That nigga chain is crazy.
That'd be dope.
That is crazy.
And this is a prince right here, Big Sat. He was a prince. He was mixed with Isamaya and Peruvian. So we just got out Peruvian. Yeah, he was mixed with Peruvian Isamaya, and they had a colony down in Florida. African Americans are said to be descendants of victims of the transatlantic slave trade. Their melanated skin is used as a key to identify that they are from Africa. The truth is, the first contact tribes in North America were melanated people documented by early missionaries and settlers. This would be the grounds of switching place, destiny swapping, topic of the night, with the true indigenous people now reclassified as African American by Jesse, with foreign, Asian, Native Americans whose tribal governments are now governed by Europeans. Now, right here in U.S. today, who is an African American? Definition evolves as U.S. does. So they say there was a time where being black in America meant you were most likely descended from one or more enslaved Africans. Yeah, it was a time. Today ain't that time. Who arrived on the transatlantic slave trade. However, as the number of Africans and Caribbean blacks immigrating to the USA has increased, so have the chances that someone who identified as black or African American is what? A first or second generation immigrant. So this slave trade was actually put on us, a segment of the global trade, transported between 10 to 12 million enslaved black Africans across the Atlantic Ocean in America during the 16th and 19th century. Now, in order to take us off the land, what a lot of people say, if the slave trade didn't happen, what would be the reason that they're alive? Well, we occupied the land, and this land was the most resourceful. As we seen with the attempt to colonize Africa, when they got there, they found out during the Royal African Company, that company, through their records, they went bankrupt, and a lot of them wanted to pull out. A lot of the people who had stocks in it, investors, they wanted to pull out because they saw no value in it. But as we look at with the Spanish almost took over the world under King Philip, as they got super rich off the South America, North America, Central America. Let's walk. Okay, now we'll go to first contact. Since Columbus was the first contact, in the Catholic Encyclopedia, page 747, you have Indians. When Columbus landed on the island of San Salvador in 1492, he was welcomed by brown-skinned people whose physical appearance confirmed in his opinion that he had reached India. And he called them Indios. Indios just mean you had Los Gentes Indios, which means people of God. And this is we hear the Israelites, Deuteronomy 76, but the only people in the world to ever be called the people of God would be the American Indians. All right. So we want to get that understood. This is William Penn right here. These are first contact tribes and the description of them. So William Penn said that they are generally, he said, natives are considered in person, language, manner, religion, and government with any sense of original. For the person, they are generally tall, straight, well-built, singular proportion. They tread strong and clever, and most walk on lofty chin. Of complexion, black. By the design of the gypsies in England, they grease themselves in bare fat, clarified with no defense against the sun, and whether their skin must needs be swarthy. Swarthy means dark skin. And this is a word that they use back in the eras in the European time.
Yeah, they call Beethoven swarthy.
Right, but yeah, Beethoven also was swarthy. that classical music actually comes from the upper colonies areas, Connecticut and things of that nature, right?
Wait, hold on. What you said? Classical music comes from where?
Oh, it comes from here, out of the upper colonies, Connecticut,
Come from Connecticut.
yeah, Massachusetts, those areas. So when you go to Yale University, they have a huge building. I wish I could show right now when I went up there.
Brother, I need a lecture on that.
Okay, yeah, that was, and they preserve it today, and today it's still in use for the same reason. So yeah, those plays, like those plays that was created, and like Romeo, Juliet, Shakespeare, all of this took place here in North America. Right here, who do we have? So we had American Indians, as we read, what they were the copper colored people of America. So who are these people that are today called Native Americans? Well, they would be considered Plains Indians. And that's very important. We're going to talk about that a little later in the show. But these Plains Indians are the Native American tribes, not American Indians. That's why they feel like it's a derogatory term. They want to get far away from the American Indian because the treaties and the land and the culture that's attributed to American Indians do not fit them. So in order to try to get away from it and sweep it under the rug while we still following the story that this land didn't belong to us and we were slaves and this, that, and the other, this was to give them an opportunity to build themselves up, but they end up being a disappointment to the government. So right here, it says that in the 17th century through the 19th century, that the government and military forces of Canada and the United States have made plain Indian culture groups the archetype in literature and art for Native Americans everywhere. So we'll go a little in depth in the end of it. This. So we hear about the transatlantic slave trade. They don't mention that Europe had a civil war in 1603, and that led to a lot of Europeans being brought over 5 million if you look on slavevoyages.org. Now that is more than the number of Africans they say they brought in, which they get down to 300,000. But if you actually go on the site and understand it and know how to work it, you'll realize that number decreases. But one of so that trade is left out. They're also going to leave out so we deal with the Atlantic slave trade, but at that same time there was something called a Pacific slave trade that took place. Now the Sangli, if y'all ever heard of a Sangli is a Chinese. The Chinese were ancestors to both modern Chinese, Filipinos, and modern Filipino Mestizo descendants. So they're called Mestizo de Sanglis, also known as Chinese Mestizos. Well, these people, the Chinese, will be trading in the ports of the Philippines, and they're gonna breed into them. But when the Spanish arrive, they're gonna breed into them, and the lighter skinned people would be adopted into a class system, a caste system that put the people who didn't want to assimilate into a place of bondage. So let's walk. Now, the first people, the Filipinos, actually landed here and built the colony with the Spaniards in October 18, 1587. This is in Morro Bay in California. So this is why the West Coast have a lot of Filipinos and a lot of those mixes there. But when you're going through the Kodak Island, Hawaii, what else we have out there? It's so many. But when you're going through all of these Pacific islands and you're gonna run into melanated people there, which they have washed their history away. But you had something called the Manila Galleon. The Manila Galleon, it brought over slaves from the Philippines at this time, 1587. So right here, the Galleon began 1570 to 1815. So for the first 2.5 centuries, Spain carried on a monopoly between Philippines and Mexico. Very important. I want y'all to circle this because a lot of people, again, I say, they feel as though people who are called Mexicans are the true people there. That's farther from the truth. the term Mexican didn't derive or become popular until the Mexican Revolution in the 1820s. Now, that's very important because me being in Texas, a lot of people that fought in that war were people that look like us. Even from the culture, the food culture today has been passed on as a Mexican culture. But if you go to Mexico, none of those items are on the menu. A lot of those cowboy culture, what they call Southwest culture, that is the true Mexican culture, which would be the people that's coming out of the Southwest regions, your cowboy area and things of that nature, which is us. So the trade was carried on the state of the art vessel known as the Manila Galleon, developed by naval architects in 1550. Well, they actually was around before then. 1550s just when the Spanish is going to come in the picture. Now, for a century and a half, more than hundreds of galleons were built in the Philippines. Some were built in Pasgani, Albany, Mindoro, and Iloilo, but majority were built in the Philippines. So if we look over to the left side and look over to the right side, you can actually see a baby here, and he looked like a Buddha or something, the Chinese Buddha. But these are the people that will actually come in and replace the people to the right, which would be the indigenous people in the Philippines. Their slave labor, forced labor was called Polo Servio. Again, these are indigenous tribes from the Philippines. These are pictures of indigenous people there. If you look on the right here, you'll have the whitewashed version. You look to the left, you'll get the indigenous version. A lot of these people had a trade and monopoly here to the West Coast and the Pacific areas of what today of North America. But we have to understand that the people from North America actually branched out and went and built colonies throughout these small islands there. Were there people there? Yes, but they were melanated as well. Again, right here, more indigenous people of the Philippines, and this the people today who are called Philippines. Well, who are they? Well, if we go deeper, they're called Chinese Mestizos. Again, we brought up Sanglish. Who are Chinese Mestizos? Well, they're an important element of Philippine society in the 19th century. They played a significant role in the formation of Filipino middle class. All right. In the 1898 revolution, the formation, what is now known as Filipino nationality. So in 1898, after the Spanish-American War, these people will be upgraded and put in upper class in the caste system, and they will become the new Filipino. Again, this is them right here. As Chinese Mestizo population increased, the question of legal status arose. From the beginning of the Spaniard occupation, 1740, the inhabitants of Filipino were classified in three classes: Spaniards, Indios, and Chinese. Now, this is what helped create that caste system. And Chinese Mestizos and Chinese, who were all tribute-paying classes, although each class was assessed of a different amount. So they had to pay taxes, and the people more lighter skinned they were exempt from those taxes. So right here, bro, Rich, if I asked you right here, these young ladies right here, what nationality of people do you think they look like today?
To the right, shit, that looked like a light-skinned sister from the south. To the left, I guess you would say India.
Okay.
A female from India or Pakistan or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So they like, to me, they like some Serrano, especially on the west. I mean, on the left, they look like Mexicans, what they call Mexican people today. And it's real interesting because a lot of people, the Mexicans are actually, they're Sanglish. So these are the Chinese and Filipino mixtures, Spanish mixtures, they're mestizos. And they're going to create this culture right here. This dress right here, we see these at a lot of Mexican celebration, Mexican culture today, what they call Mexican or Hispanic culture. This is what, they wear for their parties. It's called a China poblano dress. This China poblano dress is worn by Mexican women in Pueblos towns from the 16th through the late 19th century. The word China has little to do with China poblano. The original name is given to a domestic servant. Watch this. But also was applied to refer to a woman who wrapped cigars and laundries or prostitution. Now, Asia had taken the city of Pueblo, Mexico, where she became a saint named Catherine de San Juan. She was unique to the churchmen crusaders and canonized Christianity after her death. But this lady right here, the Chino slaves who made the journey from Asia to Mexico in the 17th century. So these Chinos would be slaves. Now again, America been so stuck on teaching us in history that the only slave trade we ever heard about was the transatlantic slave trade. At the same time, they disregarded that Asians came here as slaves to Mexico in the 17th century. So let's walk it down. Let's build this culture. On the left side, you see indigenous Mexicans. On the right side, you see the Mestizo, the Chino Mestizos. Right here in the book called Asian Slaves in Colonial Mexico, From Chinos to Indians by Tatiana Ali out of University of Miami, we see that the experience illustrate Spain colonies and reach the crown, which together, hold on, let's come down. So historically unprecedented way in the time, Chinos in Mexico came to be treated under the law. Watch this, Rick. Under the law, they became indigenous vassals of the Spanish crown in 1672. The implications were enormous. Indians, then Chinos, they could no longer be held as slaves. Tatiana Salas tracked down Chinos' complex journey from the slave market of Manila to the streets of Mexico City. So these people would be brought over to Mexico in the 1600s if they convert over to Catholicism. They will be seen under law as Indians. And Tatiana Salas, this assistant professor, she went and studied it, and this is why Mexicans don't. No one is more documented on the planet than we are here in North America. We are documented. We can go back to furthest. A lot of these countries don't even have the ability to track ancestry. We were more civilized and been civilized for a long time. Right here, there was another slave trade that took place after 1807 Trade Embargo Act. America, the British, and they cut off. They are said to cut out the transatlantic slave trade. Well, during that time in 1810, you'll get what is called the Chinese coolie slave trade coming here. Now, the Chinese in the United States was reinforced to establish history of Chinese labor as indentured servant. The trafficking of Chinese slaves had first begun in the 17th century by the Dutch. Much of the slave trade of the Chinese during the confusion of corners of the Opium Wars in the 1830s, where as many as 50,000 Chinese were abducted in a Chinese port each for several years between 1840 to 1900. They said as many as 250,000 Chinese were sold into slavery in the coolie trade. So they'll be spread out through the islands, Chinese, people from India, or at that time.
Hey, Topcatz.
Turn up.
What's your thoughts when you hear immigrants say the Chinese built the railroads over here?
Ask them who was they teaching. When they built them, they weren't there by themselves. They were out there with us. So they came and sat under us. Even the catfish farms, even agriculture, even sugar plantation down in Louisiana. Yeah, the Chinese and the Asian were right on side of us. But no, they didn't build it because at that time in China, they didn't even the railroad didn't even exist. So yeah, if they were gonna do something or had the skill, they would have did it at home first.
Somebody said the Buffalo Soldiers is
right. Buffalo Soldiers babysitted them and taught them everything that they knew. We'll get into that. That's actually in the bill. Shout out to that person. That's actually in the bill tonight to bring more understanding.
Right.
So right here, these are posters from back then. The Chinese wall approved the United States of America abroad. The United States of America. These are the camps that the Chinese coolie slaves were in. This is history that they don't teach us because they want to make us to be the victim. All of this is to take us off of who we are. Okay, let's get to it. The scholars of the Bering. Hold on. Yeah, scholars look at the Bering Strait theory as the origins of Native Americans, but in North America. But you see, the Bering Strait is merely a theory which academia and scientists are now doubling back, stating that new evidence actually debunks the land bridge claims and puts Europeans as the first inhabitants of North America. The truth is, Siberians were enslaved by Russians, brought to Alaska, Canada, California as laborers for the fur trade. And the Russian American company looks to monopolize the trade of the Bering Strait will be named after Russian explorer Vitus Bering. So let's get into it. Right here, this is a Native American news outlet, and they even listen to this. So many scholars have asked, where did Native Americans come from? We're asking it too. But no one has managed to answer the question. Hey, y'all get some flames in the chat. No one has managed. This is a Native American site. So in the book Red Earth, White Lies, famed Indian activist writer Vine Delora Jr. wrote, we do not know the history. Look what they artists wrote. It's not many Native American writers. Okay, we're going to go into when they first started writing. We're going to get into that in this build. But Vine Delora Jr. wrote, we do not know the real history of our planet, and we know very little about the historical experiences of various society and races which constitute our species. So this is the Native Americans admitting themselves that they have no recollection of their history. Period. As I said before, we are the most documented people, not only in America, but in the world. Oral tradition contains tantalizing bits of knowledge and lore about prehistoric times, and the stories of elders, facts about migrations and drastic climate change are interwoven with metaphors and myth. Tribal tradition, the lawyer said, very considers regarding the origin of man. So let's get to it. Where did this story come from? Well, the continent of North America had been inhabited by humans for at least 16,500 years earlier than 1500. Settlers of Europeans thinking interest in discovering how humans had come to population, how humans become to populate North and South America. One theory suggested that the migration of Norsemen across Greenland, that'll be in the 10th century right there, and that'll be by what's his name? I had a coin. Leif Erikson. I'm sorry, Leif Erikson and the Vikings, which that wouldn't be the first. You had 6th century, had Brendan the Navigator and the Welsh that actually came over. But let's walk, and that's the routes that Columbus is going to be trained. Is they're going to take the same routes that Brandon the Navigator took to get here. Okay, yet another idea proposed that inhabitants had generated out of the mud. 1800 scientist theories discussing the possibility of a land bridge that had spanned between Asia and North America thousands of years ago. The theory of the land bridge fueled the imagination of explorers and scientists for centuries. And we're going to go through that. In 1590, the Spanish missionary Fray Jose Acosta produced the first written record suggesting a land bridge connection. So when we hear that the Native Americans walked across the ice bridge, and I mean, that's crazy. If you barefooted and walking across all that ice, you'll have pneumonia by the time you get to where you're going. So they're not even logically thinking. This is someone creating a story, and we're going to find this story wasn't true. But the question of how people migrated to the New World was a topic widely debated among thinkers. So this was debated, and that's why it's a theory. That's why it's called the land bridge, the Bering land bridge theory. So Acosta rejected many of the theories proposed by his contemporaries. Instead, he believed that hunters from Asia had crossed into North America via the land bridge and narrow strait located far to the north, though the land bridge was still in existence before his lifetime. Okay, so this guy right here, you had Peter the Great, 1682, 1725. He chartered the exploration of eastern borders. He recruited a Danish explorer, Vitus Bering, and that's where the land bridge is actually going to derive his name from. This guy right here, the theory of the land bridge refuted. Okay, let's walk. So this land bridge, they start to, you have David Hopkins. He's a geologist who studied the land bridge. Now, this is very important because little was known about the Bering land bridge when Hopkins began his field work. This is 1940, family. So in 1940, this conversation about a land bridge or the natives walking across the land bridge, it did not even exist at this time. It wasn't enough evidence behind it. So watch what they're gonna do. So, but botanists, archaeology, and other scientific specialists in the 1950s and 60s, Hopkins promoted the theory that the land bridge linked Asia and North America among human, animals, and plants, and they migrated 12,000 years ago. Now, Hopkins worked as a research scientist for the U.S. Geological Survey from 1942 to 1984, when he became a distinguished professor at the University of Alaska. He taught conducted research and directed the Alaskan Quaternary Center until his retirement. So as we see, they knew nothing about it. So they're going to come with programs later, the SBHP, to provide support on the completion of this Alaska theory and so on. But they also funded the Bering Strait Heritage Foundation to conduct traditional youth study in Hot Springs, Bella, in hopes the study will culminate into a traditional cultural property nomination, given the site National Register of Historical Places. So as we see, this was an ongoing research to find out who there was, which lasted all the way into the 90s, where the U.S. and Russians actually came together to try to work this problem, and they still came up empty. You had what is called Lil Diomit, or Yesterday's Island. So the theory, this right here is Yesterday's Island, and right across the larger model is Russia. So once you cross over, you in Russia. Not only you're in Russia, as you go further across over the mountains, you are in Siberia. So this place does froze, and you can actually travel across it once a year. So is this close? This is the United States version. This is Russia territory. No one actually lives in these areas. If so, it's a small population of people moving and grooving, but it's almost like you're in no man's land. That's the real Bering Strait. Now let's get down to it. How did they write us out the story? How did they do the destiny swap? Well, one of their methods was to say that all of the American Indians died off. So right here in the National Institute of Health.gov, we see that it estimated 95% of indigenous population Americans were unalived in infectious disease during the years following. So all of us are supposed to be gone right now. Okay. If we were all gone, if the whole population was gone, then it would be no need for the wars that we fought in, such as the Revolutionary War, the Pontiac Wars, Battle of Tall Timbers, the Creek Civil War, the Indians down in the Southeast, and also 1830 Indian Removal Act. So if the Indian Removal Act 1830 and all the Indians passed away, who are they moving? So again, I don't think the people who wrote this down were logical, or maybe we just 10 steps ahead of them. Now, let me get this out of the way. We'll skip that for now. So we'll deal with the battles here. The first person that passed away in what started the Revolutionary War was Crispus Attucks. Crispus Attucks was not a Native American. He was American Indian descent. And history are not shy to put that information out. But he was a melanated man in the streets of Boston. Phyllis Wheatley and other people wrote about this, prominent melanated people wrote about these stories. When we get down again, like I said, the Revolutionary War, the Tuscarora, King Phillips, so on and so forth, all of these people are melanated people, and the captives in these wars will be sent over to the West Indies, Jamaica, and the Caribbean islands, things of this nature, Barbados, things of this nature. At this time, this conversation is not about a Native American. Native American can't have this conversation. When we look up the war records, Native American can't have those conversations because they have no documentation on them. Again, this is the reason why they trying to get the vital statistics to take down the genealogy platforms, because we have too much documentation on us. Well, we'll move down to the Seminoles, and this is very important because the Seminoles are probably one of the most famous tribes here because of what they accomplished, their revolts and actually fighting against the U.S., defeat 8 U.S. generals. And 1870, they beat the U.S. down so bad. In 1870, the U.S. came to them and asked for their assistance in fighting a people called the Plains Indians, who would later become the Native Americans. Very important we point that out. So we would be the first line of defense, and we would actually defeat these people who they call Native Americans. So let's walk. That war take place from 1860 to 1858, really throughout the Civil War. So that's when the Civil War came, and you had the Confederate Army and the Union. Well, this battle in the Civil War, the most important battles will take place in what is called Indian Territory. And this is where the Seminoles will shine. Not only the Seminoles, but this is the story of when they come with, this is after the Trail of Tears, which is very important. And hold on, that's what I wanted to come up to. So after the Trail of Tears, one of the things that's very important, and it's wild because you have Black History Month today for the Cherokees. So the Cherokees have people in Oklahoma today on the news, on the Tulsa News, on Channel 26, Tulsa News, Channel 25, Tulsa News, out there in shackles with their wrists and their ankles shackled. This was this week, maybe Wednesday. Chuck Hoskin is the chief of them. He have no genealogy. His genealogy, they tried to make him go back to a guy in the 1800s. The problem was that is no one can find this guy on any records. So they created a person to say that this guy has the right to be the chief because he descends from someone that comes out of the early 1800s. But there are absolutely no records on that. Not only that, but this guy who's the principal chief of the Cherokee today, he didn't know his own genealogy. So a YT man is the guy who actually performed the genealogy search and brought him back this fake ass Indian. Okay, so the Trail of Tears, today they created the Trail of Tears over. And this time they put them in shackles and chains and white gowns. BS, you know, and for them people to be out there dressing up and going along with it, I think it's super important that we have these conversations with them, bridge this gap. But right now, what we're looking at, they told us that we were enslaved by Native American tribes, which couldn't be no further from the truth. As we see down here, say natives never enslaved us. We were the slave masters. So these are slave schedules that are coming down from ranging from 1810 to 1860. And I really wanted to follow that down and follow some of the towns where they said this took place. So this would be Arkansas 1850 record. But if we look right here, the number of slaves, you'll see all of them says 1 on this particular one. They have their ages right here. They have the color. So as you notice, there are B's and M's on here. B for black, M for mulatto. Very important. The slave master is said to be with all B's. Slave master is said to be black or mulatto, which would be mixed race, right? Indian on Indian or Indian and the European, black European at that. All right, let's move up right here. This another one right here out of Mississippi. Again, all B's next to the name. This is from the 1850, I'm sorry, census. Again, all B's and M's. No Native Americans here. At this time in the 1850s, there was no such thing as a Native American. No one heard of it. Again, right here, this is in Mississippi. All B's by the name. These are the slave masters. These are the records. And we could just skip through, so we won't be here all day. This is Virginia. You'll actually see the I's and the M's right there. I's for Indians and mulattoes. Right here, we have number enslaved people 3, a female that's 30, a male that's 30, a female 14, and a male that's 10. This is their family. So we have been fed the wrong information on slavery, and slavery does not connect to the transatlantic slave trade. There was a domestic slave trade taking place here because a lot of people were enslaved on their own land, period. And if a lot of people owned these plantations and it was a family, no different than if you file taxes and you file for dependents on your taxes. So if you were a property owner, landowner, you could file taxes and be reimbursed by the state, and you can use your family as the dependent. Same thing as they doing today. They just switched the word and the language up. So don't fall for the BS. That's why they say you got your slave master name, because you're named after your father. You're named after the family plantation. Facts. Let's walk. So after the Seminole War, we'll get down into, again, just showing the presence of us, and we don't see anyone down there but us. So the battle for Indian territory, where the Confederates will sign a treaty. They will forge names on the treaty and sign up with Apple Pike and the Confederate Army. At that time, the Confederate Army was a government that ranged all the way from the South, all throughout the South. And the brains of it was a guy named Judah Benjamin, who was a melanated man. We have the documentation on that. Also, the president of it, Jefferson. I think it was his name, Jefferson. He also, we have his records in Canada. He was a melanated man, and also his grandmother, his family, aunt, sisters, brothers, all melanated people. We had the newspaper articles on that. This is Stan Waiter, the last Confederate general he was a mixed race Indian. He was the last Confederate general to surrender. 1866, there was a treaty that was passed. Again, through this treaty, where they gave Creek Indians 140 acres, and that goes to Sarah Rector, she was the richest woman in the world by the age of 10, 12 years old. They had found oil under her land in Oklahoma and Indian Territory. And the Rockefellers and a lot of other people came down there, rushing down there, and actually ended up taking over all of the oil. So I wanted to bring out this treaty because 1866, and then you had March 22nd, 1870. These treaties said that we were to get rights to the land. We didn't owe anyone nothing. We even controlled our mineral rights, which meant the oil. That's how a lot of people got rich off the oil. Oklahoma was booming. One of the number one oil facilitators in the world. I bring this up because Native Americans should be in the story, because we're talking about American Indian tribes. As you see, treaties with Chickasaw, treaties with the Seminole, treaties with the Creeks, treaties with the Cherokee. This is 1866, right after the Civil War, right after these guys just won the Civil War, and they were awarded land by the U.S. for their participation and actually winning the war. Now, I brought that up again because Native Americans can't come back. If you were here, you should have been fighting. But when we look into the people who were fighting, we don't see any Native Americans. The documentation is there. Our people, it's only our faces. And this is what we lose when we don't do our genealogy and we don't know where we are in the story, because people are asking for reparations for something that they can't prove that happened to them. when there are other avenues, such as these treaties. The things that we're owed, our inheritance, are in these treaties. And if we don't know who we are and we don't look back in our past and know our story, then it goes unnoticed and they're able to keep operating. But the Cherokee, not to fast forward because that's in the bill, but the Cherokee brought in what they called the Freeman, right? Which was two totally different people. They're more documented. Again, like I said, the chief of the Cherokee today, Hoskins, he have fake ass genealogy. He can't even show himself in the story in the 1800s. He the fucking chief. He have all the resources at his fingertips, but it's nothing inside of those articles that says anything about him. Only us, and they're using us to portray this and to operate basically in a manner where they destiny swapped and they act as though we don't even exist. But we really don't exist until we start calling our ancestors' name and know who we are and what we are in the story, understand our past, and we can understand what is owed to us. Let's walk. So during the Civil War, Seminoles sided with the Confederacy, and many of them fled to Kansas. Okay, and that would be the Battle of Blood on Ice, what we just showed right there, where they actually went to Kansas, joined the USCT, United States Colored Troops, 1st and 2nd Infantry, right? And you can still see the melanated chiefs at the time that participated in that. What we don't find is Native American faces. Then it comes back and said the Curtis Act of 1898, the Dawes Commission dissolved the Seminole government and divided its territory amongst approximately 3,000 enrolled tribe members. So by the close of the 18th century, the 19th century, I'm sorry, we'll see that they're gonna disband this Seminole group. Now this is John Hoyce. These are the Seminoles. They left Florida, came in Oklahoma, left Oklahoma, came down into Texas, and guarded the borders of Nacimiento. Right here in 1866, the Congress passed a new law and they created the Buffalo Soldiers. Shout out to the brother that brought the Buffalo Soldiers. And the Buffalo Soldiers be very instrumental. Again, we should see the Native Americans. At this time, they're actually gonna come into the history of the United States at this time. But it wouldn't be pretty. So African Americans fought and died with Washington troops in the American Revolution. Okay, again, like I said, the first casualty in the American Revolution was American Indian by the name of Crispus Attucks. So, and he was melanated, not a Native American. That's strike one. So, again, African Americans fought and died with Washington troops in the American Revolution. And again, they repelled British invasion in the War 1812. During the Civil War, nearly 180,000 African Americans served in the Union Army, with over 33,000 giving their lives for the Union and and their freedom. So, July 28, 1866, they're gonna, in the conclusion of the Civil War, again, another war that we headlined, that we had the most soldiers, the most troops in, and gave them a better chance to win because they adopted our military strategy and our military genius. After they seen they couldn't beat us, they asked us to join. You feel me? So we made the U.S., period. So right here, this the 9th and the 10th Cavalry Regiment. You see them coming on horseback, it's a bad day for you. The 9th Cavalry came to Texas in 1867 to set up camp and force along the frontier, and later Buffalo Soldiers fought in the Spanish-American War. Both world wars, they shared their country with strength. This is all they're talking about. We don't hear these conversations about the natives. So right here, yeah, they did teach skilled labor to the Chinese coolies that came over. Not only the Chinese coolies, but the white migrants that came over. So right here, the U.S. Military Academy at West Point installed a 2,000-pound bronze statue to honor Buffalo soldiers who taught horsemanship and military genius and military fighting tactics to white cadets for over 114 years. So we are the mothers and fathers of this land, period. You don't come to a slave from another country to navigate, to map out, roads and river systems. And, these guys would go 21 days without drinking water. They would use cactuses. They would get the water out of cactuses, create their own little systems where they can purify the water where they can drink, or they'll go all the way to the top of the mountain to get the water out because it'll be more, it'll be more good for them. So these type of things, these tactics that they use to survive and stick around here, at the same time, they fought for 25 years to put what today is known as Native Americans on reservations. So when you look out there, all the reservations on what is called the plains or the west coast of America, these people were actually put on their reservation. They didn't go there freely. There was battles that ensued, which they did hand-to-hand combat against our ancestors, the Buffalo Soldiers, and we demolished them. The Buffalo Soldiers are going to be a camp that's going to come from what they call the Seminole Scouts. The Seminole Scouts, which would be these guys right here. The Seminole Scouts sided with the Confederacy. Most Seminoles. Seminole Negro Indian Scouts. This is National Historical Parks in Texas. You got Fort Davis. You got Brackettville, Texas. That's wild. All right. So these are some of the treaties that the Native Americans are going, the Plains Indians at the time. Native Americans going to come later, so we're going to keep it in context with the Plains Indians, and we're about to break down a little further in detail. In this treaty signed on April the 29th, 1868, between the U.S. government and the Sioux Nation, the United States recognized the Black Hills as part of the Great Sioux Reservation, set aside for exclusive use by the Sioux people. So they end up going to battle with us, Buffalo Soldiers. This is Custer's last standing right here. And they would be put on reservations as they lose. As we see, the Great Sioux Reservation was set aside for them. So this is them right here on the reservation after that ass whooping. This is them right here. No type of infrastructure down there. We would have had houses, we would have had churches, neighborhoods, roads, irrigation, all of these type of things, playgrounds for the kids, gardens, all of these type of things, baseball fields, football fields, different things of this nature right here. But you see them out there in camp teepees. Right here is the Battle of Bear Valley. This right here, 1918, elements of American 10th Cavalry Regiment, again, the Buffalo Soldiers. They detected about 30 of these native or Plains Indians. The army engaged in hostile Native Americans in combat and thus had been seen as one of the final battles of the American Indian Wars. So the American Indian Wars is the American Indians, us, i.e. us, fighting against what is called the Plains Indians, who were a threat to U.S. expansion at the time. Right here, Indians called Black Buffalo Soldiers in the Dakota. Black soldiers in Dakota Buffalo Soldiers. And they said it was because of their hair and their fierce fighting skills, but all of that was BS too. We're going to push down in 1887 where we're going to get the Dawes Act, which was February 8, 1870, and it provided allotment lands and several to Indians of various reservations, known as the Dawes Act, emphasized severely the treatment of Native Americans as individuals rather than as members of tribes. So here in Indian Territory, Oklahoma, parts of Mississippi, things of that nature, Arkansas, what's going to take place is from that treaty of 1866 we just spoke about, and a lot of our people end up with granted lands, i.e. the creek, 140 acres, 160 acres apiece, and with no supervision of no kind, while the Native Americans are pushing the narrative today saying that they were the slave owners of us. And as we go through the census records, again, we are the most documented people in the world. we go through the census records, we find no Native Americans. All of the surnames are the surnames we wear: Williams, Carter, Cobra, Jeffries, Thompson, Thomas, different things of this nature here. Davis, William, Johnson. These are the names that come up on them. Also, if these people were around, why weren't they in the fight? That's very important. You know, our people, if you're not gonna fight, we don't want you around us. Period. So they wasn't around us. And to prove that, we actually engaged them in battle and put them on reservations. So let's walk. Who is American Indian? They get whoopers. Whoopers then talk to us. But we victimize y'all. Right here you had the Curtis Act. This is the act that's gonna come in and sweep up everything from the Dawes Road, all the lands and rights that they didn't close out in that deal. And again, we seen that this was the demise of the Seminole Nation that we know it. Okay, let's get to education. Education, you have the AMA, the American Missionary Association. It was an abolitionist group founded by Protestants, focused on abolition of slavery and education for African Americans. Now, they were most prominent in the United States from the antebellum period through Reconstruction. Now, today, this is what your HBCUs, this is who your HBCUs are today. As we see them sponsor Freeman Bureau through colleges like Fisk University, Hampton, Tougaloo, Atlanta University, Dillard University, Talladega, and Howard University, L.O. Howard, Washington, D.C. Chocolate City. Again, this is the AMA and the HBCUs. They go Fisk, 1866. A lot of these schools were built for our people. But when we look into them, like Fisk, Hampton, this nature, the history of them is surrounded by American Indians. It's not surrounded by Native Americans. We're going to show you that. But American Indians, our people. The culture, everything about these schools, from their bands, their drill teams, their dances, their dance teams, this nature. The way that they dress up is still the same way that our people dressed up and how they politic back in the games. Me growing up, we had what was called Battle of the Bands. Oh man, you couldn't wait to get to a football game and they have Battle of the Bands for homecoming and these things of that nature. Our bands, nothing nice. Still today, they still get down. Shout out to them. A lot of those bands out there in the South and things like that, they still practicing their culture, tradition. You had every Ivy League school in America started off as a American Indian school. You know, here's Harvard University, Princeton, you name it, all started off as American Indian school. Hampton University started off as American Indian school. Well, the Native Americans come into play during education. They had something what was called the boarding school colonization. And this will start with in Philadelphia under the Carlisle School. From there, it was spread out. What's interesting in that, as we spoke of earlier, Hampton University was for American Indian and for our people. Well, Hampton, a historical, now this is coming from their site, Hampton University site. This picture up here is Native Americans. We know don't nobody Taylor Seuss like that but us. So these blues. Hampton, a historical African-American university, began the program in an effort to civilize Native Americans. The university sought to assimilate Native Americans. They taught English, how to dress, general etiquette, meaning how to set the table and say your manners and set the table, things of that nature. So we civilized. This program was to an effort to civilize these people, right? Now, the school is an African American university. They just using that term at the time. African American didn't exist, but we know what they're saying. They're talking about us. Now, we taught them English. We taught them how to dress. We taught them general etiquette, tuck your shirt in, flush the toilet, bathe every night, shit like that. Put on some deodorant, lotion, grease your hair, things like this here, what we live by. Students were required to live with a Caucasian family during their time of study. Now, this is them at Hampton, and this is us actually teaching them, okay? and they want to portray us as slaves and all of this here, but we always was well dressed, well mounted, pearls, earrings, different things of this nature. No different than how we rock it today. You know, we had beautiful, powerful women back then as well. But these clothing and things of this nature will be provided by us. The so-called Native Americans didn't get cotton or the ability to sew clothing into their interaction with us. History books, they'll say Europeans, but they're talking about us. Now, if we go here through these schools, a lot of what people today deem as Native American culture will actually be taught to these people in school. So the nomadic and how they're behind in time, still drawing bows with images on them and things of this nature. I mean, like they're living in a prehistoric time. But right here in Progress in Indian Schoolwork, this is coming from the United States Department of Interior. This is page 411. A reference to the development of Indian education work will be valued in judging its relative present conditions and what reasonably be expected in the future. So the government is going to fund this education. They funded them in 1870 with $100,000. Then that number is going to continue to grow. You have these are the numbers right here. You had the New York Indians, 3,578 pupils. The past year they enrolled in all schools was 26,610. We'll see those numbers go. Now, what were they learning? Well, right here, you have in California. Basically, curriculums were the same all over, but these are the reports of the superintendent of the schools. So the girls received instructions. These Plains Indian, Native American school in these boarding schools. Native American students in these boarding schools. The girls received instructions on house duties and dairying. The boys were given agriculture training, include irrigation and practice of dairying and general repair work. So they are given this school. This is a vocational school for them for skills that they did not possess. Okay, now poultry raising, housekeeping were taught, and literally work were correlated. Individual garden allotted in agriculture, fruit raising, mechanical trades include instructions. The girls were given work along domestic lines, baskery, and what baskery was taught. So when you see them weaving baskets and things like this here, understand that it's coming from us. As we see down here, the individuals were planting in varied variety of vegetables raised, turkey and chicken raised, receiving attention. Household duties, dairying, and basket making were taught to the girls. So these are the strongest points in their culture, they'll tell us today. Outside of the uniforms that they're wearing that are very recent, very modern, and not ancient. But we see them weaving baskets, and they try to credit them with that. But this was taught to them in school. The agriculture. We had a lot of our ancestors were sharecroppers. If the Native American had that ability, they would not need to learn agriculture in school. They would have learned it at home. Amen. So we taught them basket weaving, basket making, housekeeping duties, how to wash dishes, keep your clothes clean, laundry, hang your clothes on the clothesline outside. These things, civilizing these people. YT people didn't do it, we did it. Let's walk. So these are pictures of them actually in it. Now you have what is called Plain Indian, Plain Filipino, Native American Indian interaction at Carlisle Indian School. Carlisle was the first school. Now, the Filipinos that came over are actually going to be put into this body of people that will later be known as the Native Americans. So as we going through, we're going to do a quick Renberg, as we going through this story, we found the Chinese, the Filipino mixture, which would be the Sanglis or the Mestizos. We also find the Filipinos. We find the Siberians that are coming across the Bering Strait. So, okay, just to make sure we got it all in order. Now let's start breaking it down into modern, and then we're moving from the 1800s, moving into the 20th century. This is the close of the 1800s. You had what is called the Spanish-American War. The Spanish-American War was the aftermath of the Buffalo Soldiers going into Cuba and kicking the ass. And now they're going to Puerto Rico, also Guam, and now they're going to move over to the Philippines. Now, the U.S. used the Buffalo Soldiers to clear out and make way and of the western part of the United States. 1846, they had the Oregon. 1848, you had the Treaty of Hidalgo, which is going to take over all of the territories of the Spanish, New Mexico, Arizona, California, so on and so forth. Now, that is also called the Spanish-American War. But in 1898, they went over to the Philippines. Philippines was the last stronghold for the Spanish Empire. And all the way up into the early early 1900s, the language in the Philippines was the same language spoken in Mexico. All right, let's walk. So they're going to go into the Philippines. After it's over, the treaty, it was signed, the Treaty of Paris, December 10, 1898. Now, a lot of these people that's going to come from over there, they're going to be sent from the Philippines over into the U.S. The term that they will give them is brown brothers. This term is used to refer to Filipinos during the period of U.S. colonial rule over the Philippines. Little brown brothers. Today we have our Hispanics. They call them brown people, even though we really brown. Them niggas need sunscreen. We don't need no sunscreen. But the term little brown brother, and today they call it brown pride, not even understanding that brown pride was specifically a label or a term that was put on Filipinos who came over after the Spanish-American War. Keep it in context. Now, the 27th president, Howard Taft, is going to actually put together a plan to civilize these people. He said it'll take over 50 years to do so. And so this is where they're going to come under the protection of the U.S. and be created as a ethnic group that's going to be in America. Right here, Little Brown Brothers, St. Louis Blues, the Filipino Exposition. This is at the World Fair. They had many World Fairs coming down from the middle of the 1800s all the way on down in the early 20th century. Right here, we'll see. This is a village. This is not real. This is a reenactment. This is like a Hollywood stage show. It's a circus. They were actually, people will pay, like you go into the zoo where you can pay to go around here. They had multiple different cultures from around the world, and they built these little joints up for people to come in and see. So the U.S. Congress appropriated $1.5 million, a hefty sum those days, for Filipino participants. Okay, the Louisiana person, more than 20 countries were represented. Each American state built a pavilion, but the Filipino allotment was the largest of them all. And this is today they're going to use these photos like this here to try to convince us that these are organic Native Americans and this is how they was living. Let's walk. So right here you had the exposition, the Lakota performers in Europe, their culture and artifacts left behind. All right, so in the 1910s, the exposition in Brussels and Chicago century progressed. Now, again, this right here is a carnival. These teepees, the clothing, the headdress, these people did not dress like this when we were fighting them in the wars in the 1800s. So for them to come back under the supervision of these Americans, they're going to be put on display as performers, as you see up there, the Lakota performers. They didn't travel all of Europe and came back. Now, the Lakota performers in the village number 36 includes 7 children recently returned and performing in Europe. The exposition marked the critical intersection between Lakota performers, 3 Belgians, an artist, anthropology, and the Belgians would experience Lakota culture at the exposition, and then in their own ways played a role in the transition from the 20th century to the 21st. Okay, so right here you had them in St. Louis and so on and so on. Right here, this is a newspaper of the Indian ceremonies and dances. 5 great Indian tribes are represented. Right here they have Mayan temple and all of these. See, and here the renowned Indian artists. All the play. Now, Franklin Roosevelt had appointed John Colley in the new Commission of Indian Affairs. This is the destiny swap right here. So his efforts, supported by Roosevelt, amounted to a new deal for American Indians in which they would be viewed and treated not as vanishing but vanquished people that valued a part of American life and culture, which they had no input in the values or the culture in America. But right now Roosevelt announced a new deal for American Indians in which they will be viewed and treated not as vanishing people, but as a valued part of American life and culture. So, and up until this time, there was no representation of these people. But here comes the destiny swap, because after the Buffalo Soldiers just went around the world and conquered all of these places, Buffalo Soldiers are of Indian ancestry, as we see the Seminole Scouts. The Seminoles are Indians, period. Buffalo Soldiers are descendants of Indians. That's why they didn't want to put rifles in their hand, because they didn't feel like they can trust them, because they had just got through having wars with these people, parents and grandparents, great-grandparents. So they didn't trust them by putting rifles in these guys' hands. Right here, this is New York World Fair. This is another World Fair photo. For many years, fairs here in the United States have featured recreated Native American villages. Again, recreated Native American villages where customers would pay to see the inhabitants go through their daily lives. Okay, they got them in the zoo. And we'll see these photos today, and these are supposedly the Seminoles. This is in the 20th century, the 1900s. So they finally have a photo of themselves, but they're in costumes at a fair in a makeshift tent with these costumes on, as they're playing the role to be a people that they are not. Well, why do you say that? Because we just showed the Seminoles in 1800s Civil War era fighting in the war. If these people were Seminoles, why don't we see them in the photos during the Civil War? They said the Seminoles were a great, fierce fighting nation. Well, why aren't these people fighting if they're the Seminoles? If they were the best soldiers, why didn't the U.S. approach them in 1870 versus approaching the Seminole Scouts in Texas? For what? Their military expertise, their scouting, their map making, and their fierce military genius. Let's walk. So this is a postcard right here, Chicago, Illinois, 1933. 1933. When we can show, again, proof in the 1800s, the Seminoles look like us. Let's walk. Now, right here, what happened? How did the destiny swap come? Well, as we said earlier, 1898, the Curtis Act dismantled the Seminole Indians. Well, right here in the Encyclopedia of Native American Religion, you get a guy named Stanley Smith. Who is Stanley Smith? This is 1940, okay? Almost 120 years from what we got the earlier depictions of the Seminoles. And now this new form of Seminole is going to be created now. Stanley Smith was sent to Florida in 1943 by the Muskogee, Wichita, and Seminole Baptist Association, based well in Oklahoma. So it's 1940, 1907, Indian Territory will become Oklahoma. 1907, they come into statehood. Now, all of the history from there is going to be broken down. They're going to break these people down. 1898, they had already dismantled the Seminoles, and now they're going to create and put a new people in their place to destiny swap with them. Let's walk. And a lot of these people are going to come from these amalgamation of people that we've seen. They talk about the slave trade. Well, let's bring up the Pacific trade, transatlantic. No, let's bring up the trans-Pacific slave trade. And now we're getting Asians, Chinese, Japanese, Filipinos, and Siberians. All right. So right here, Smith is going to come from Oklahoma, missionary group from the church, and they're going to come into Florida. Well, they're going to get what's called Big Cypress Reservation, January 2nd, 1945. And that's going to come with the help of this guy, Stanley Smith, and his political friends. This is me right here at Big Cypress. And as you see on their sign right there, dedicated 1936, even though they didn't get it there, like we just said, they got it in January 2nd, 1945. So stop the cap. But I mean, when I passed through there, the Seminole were known to be great cowboys. They wore spurs on the back of their boots. They stayed on horseback, can shoot arrows horseback. When you see on the Cowboys movie, they're leaning to the side on the Cowboys and shooting under the horse. These are all texts that came from these guys. Right here, this is me inside of the museum, and this is a photo that they took. And it shocked me. So I snapped it. Let me tell you why it shocked me. Because I'm familiar with the world fairs, with these villages that they created, and these people lived on these villages. They didn't have anywhere else to go. But if you look closer, they look like Hispanics, or what they'll call Hispanics things today. So the way that their hair made, they did not have instruments or tools or combs or brushes. They didn't have access to any of those things. And when you go there to the museum, you have to watch a 55-minute video. In that 55-minute video, they tell you that they didn't have clothing until they met the European. They tell you they didn't have a lot of things that, if you're civilized, you should have. So these clothing that they're wearing, these bright patterns and things of this nature, are costumes for them in these recreated villages that these people are holding them as if they're zoo or not human. You feel me? And people are paying to come watch them in their natural habitat. But for me to see this photo, and this is their primary to who they are. When you're walking in, this is probably the largest photo that they have in there, and they're very proud of it. The only problem with it is it's not true. They're not really at home. They're not really in the village. They're not, this is a circus. Now, this is the first chief that guy John Stanley's gonna come down. Well, he's gonna get one of these people to actually come play the chief. And this guy is gonna be the first elected chief. Now we're gonna get into that, into the political part and the laws of it now. So he became an ordained minister, right? He was a minister because the church from a Baptist church out of Oklahoma came down there, right? Stanley's gonna choose him, and this guy's gonna change his name to Billy Osceola, and he's going to cosplay the true American Indian. He was first elected in 1957. 1957. If the Seminoles are fighting in 1866 to 1858 throughout the Civil War and came back and fought on side of the U.S. to take care of some business as mercenaries, why on that story talked about why are you starting something entirely new in 1957? 1975, the Seminoles is going to create a new constitution, and that's what they're existing off of today. All of these Hollywood museums and things of this nature, well, that's going to be the small hats come in, and the mafia people. If you watch the Godfather movie, these people that went over to Cuba after Cuba, the revolution in Cuba, well, a lot of that was taken. Well, they need to come to Florida and create something for themselves where they can be outside of the U.S. government and they can run their casinos again like they did in Cuba. Well, they're going to use these people who are called Native Americans as a buffer to get these lands, and they can occupy these casinos and make money hand over fist without the interruption of the U.S. government. Bars. So right here, what we're looking at is a map of the plains. This is a map of the Plain Indian tribes. Notice you have, it's not the whole America. You have Midwest, going on back, Nebraska, Colorado, going on back to Dakota, and towards the west, in the mountaineer areas of the west. These are the people that will become known as Native Americans. Let's walk. So, where did this idea come from, and how did they destiny swap with us without anyone knowing? Well, they're gonna the government. This is a plan from the government, and they're gonna use Mexico because Mexico ridded all of the people that look like us, and they did it through art and agriculture. Art and anthropology. So right here, Mexico offered an example of what would be achieved since the recent rise to prominence of Mexican muralists had revealed a development of Mexican national style formed by a similar union of Indian design and a balance with the white skills in presentation. So, and to define emotional principles back on American Indian art and modern world, the idea of the group working together for the common good certainly reflect the unity of tribal style. Now, they're going to take a page out. This is called a New Deal for Native Art, 1933 and 43. They're going to create these images. Now, remember, the Plains Indians who occupied the Canadian prairie regions, they're going to be the United States and Canada have made the Plain Indians an archetype in art and literature for all Native Americans everywhere, however inaccurate that may be. So right here it tells you that it is inaccurate, but the United States government and Canada government are going to team up together to make these. If you type in Indian, if you looking for anything about Indian, they're going to make these people the archetype of art literature for Native Americans, even though Thanksgiving story, even though all of the early stories of the Indians took place on the East Coast, on the coastal parts of the Atlantic. And these people come from the other side of what is now known as America. Who were instrumental in this? I'm finna get y'all out of here. The Rockefeller Foundation. Oh, we know they came in early 20th century with the General Education Board and a lot of false history in University of Chicago, where they actually came back and revised history, whitewashed a lot of things, took a lot of things out of history, changed the dates, all type of things, timelines, all type of things. And unfortunately, they had people that look like us. A lot of people in the early, what they want to call it, the Harlem Renaissance, a lot of these people actually were funded by Rockefeller to create a narrative or this new history about the people here. And they used the University of Chicago to do so. So, in the significance that the funding for Indian art in North America came from Rockefeller Foundation. So, us being written out of history, for as the paintings, the imagery, and all of these things, Rockefeller Foundation is going to sponsor this. The men were invited to come to work in America only after agreement was struck between the U.S. government and Mexican government. Following the 1917 Mexican Revolution, in that agreement, the government in 1924 agreed to nationalize U.S. oil holdings acquired in 1977, most of which were owned by Rockefeller and Standard Oil Company. They doing business, and they're gonna destiny swap with us. So 39 and 40, you had a significant exhibition of indigenous culture of Mexico and the ancestral forebears of North America, native people in the traditional arts and craft potential mean. In San Francisco Golden Gate International Exposition, the viewer was sentient in the concrete expression of the transcontinental community of cultures of America, native people, not only through display of indigenous arts and craft, but through particular and highly centric style of architect that was quickly dubbed Mayan modernism. So in the early 1900s, you had what's called the caste wars that went on from 1848, all the way up into the 1910s and the 1920s, really. And you have a large influx of Chinese and Japanese people that are going to come into Mexico at that time. And these people are going to take advantage of it. They're going to fund it. They're going to put these people on pedestals and create a genre and curriculum around them, which is going to help destiny swap for as the imagery. While this is taking place, we have, no disrespect, but the Moorish Science Temple taking place. We have the Hebrew Israelites under the Commandment Keepers taking place. We have Black radicalism taking place. We have Marcus Garvey, UNIA. We have the Nation of Islam getting off the ground, coming into the 30s or whatever. But while all of these are taking place, all of these people are not of North American descent. And most of them are coming from St. Kitts, the islands, West Indies, Caribbean nations. And they're bringing identities for the people who are here, been here, fought all these wars, and they ain't got their hands dirty. They're coming in to give us an identity, while the government is actually creating new deals and connecting with other countries from Russia to Mexico, so on, to create a new population of people to internally come in and destiny swap with us. So we almost done. What's FDR Indian deal? Well, that was an economic relief aimed specifically at helping Native American communities during the Great Depression. The legislation marked a sharp U-turn in federal policy towards indigenous people. So that was June 1834. The legislation marked a U-turn in federal policy towards indigenous people. This is the New Deal, or the Indian Recognition Act. Now, what this did was it had people, whatever tribal history that came up all the way up into 1934. We got to remember this here too. They offered these populations of people that we spoke of who would later become Native American. At this time, they're not Native American. They're plain Indians, and they had no jurisdiction anything civil, no civilization or paperwork on them where they can even vote here or have any rights. That changed during the Citizenship Act of 1922, coming in 1924. And that's when we'll see that they're going to close down the ports because of World War I. And that'll be the end of the white immigration that came over here, which was 12.5 Europeans, 12.5 million Europeans that came through Ellis Island and other islands here. In 1924, they're going to stop that. Now, that's very important because we got to understand this. All the way up until that time, like I say, they did not have a identity for them. So in 1924, they're going to bring them in. In 1934, they're going to create the Reorganization Act, which is a New Deal, which is going to dismantle the old way. All those treaties and everything you signed up, you better keep them in your back pocket or you're going to lose your history, which is what happened because they're gonna give them opportunity to create new charters. And from these charters, the traditional way of bloodline of power is going to come through power is going to come through the bloodline. Now you're going to operate the same way that the U.S. government acts. You're going to vote. So when we just pulled up Billy Osceola, he is a elected chief, not a chief by traditional bloodline. And this is how they're going to do the destiny swap. Let's walk. That's the Indian Reorganization Act. After that, here's an example of that act. So we have William Keeler. Who is William Keeler? He was the principal chief in the 20th century. He was the first elected. Remember, 1934, they're going to change it from the blood. The power comes through the blood. You inherit the power through your blood ties, the traditional way. Now the U.S. government stepped in, did the New Deal, the New Deal or the Reconstruction, the New Deal or the Indian Recognition Act, where now you have to vote. So now this new system in place, and the first person that's a Cherokee chief is going to be voted in is a white man named William Keeler. He go to destiny swap. Now this other body of people who will later be called the Native Americans, the Chinese Mestizos, the Sanglish, Filipinos, and the Siberians, Mongoloid features, these people will become the buffer class to these white people as they get these charter corporations through the Reorganization Act. So by the 1900s, all Plain Indians has been sent to reservations. We kicked them in the ass, shot to the Buffalo Soldiers. Once they were on reservations, the government made them give up their way of life. They weren't allowed to speak their language, practice their religions and customs. Who that sound like? That sound like the African slave trade, nigga. That sound like the African slave trade, right? Now, again, they don't want to talk about the Pacific trade because we can prove that. They can't prove the transatlantic slave trade. They were considered foreigners on their land. Finally, the Indian Citizenship Act of 1924 gave permanent U.S. citizenship. This is what we were just speaking about. 1922 to 1924, they're going to get, first time they're going to be offered citizenship. Now, 1866, they're going to come and offer us that with 14th Amendment. All right, let's walk. So now you have what is called the American Indian Urban Relocation that's going to come down in 1953. So you had the 1930s, then you had the 1953. They're going to come. The U.S. government efforts to assimilate American Indians into mainstream culture throughout the 20th century. All this happened in the 20th century. While we black and proud and marching and all this shit here, Hebrew Israelites and the Bible, Moors and all this shit here, our whole identity is being destiny swapped because some people wanted to line their pockets and their interests for themselves and throw us away. Same shit that Jesse Jackson did, even though this is before his time. But we're gonna move on to his ass too, because 10 years later he'll be in the mix, and he's a tribal card holding member of the Cherokee Indian and been that way forever. But he felt the need to come turn us African American to get the bag. But he's a whole Cherokee Indian getting his benefits and a card carrying member. Let's walk. Historical background. You had, now this is an era where they're trying to build up this reality history. They're looking for history. They're looking for customs and culture to make these people real people. This is Yale right here, the first and second wave of Native American literature. So just as major figures, Eliot, Pound, they demanded readers know Greek, Roman mythology, literate history, and Western cultures. Indian writers today have come to expect, even demand that readers learn something about the mythology and oral history of Native Americans. So they didn't come asking for that until the 1960s and the 70s. This is the first time we're gonna get a literature that was written on Native Americans. The messed up part about it is that these are white people writing it. These aren't even Native Americans writing their own history. Can't get an amen. So they finna create them a past. Now, this you also had the law come down, House Current Resolution 108, to end the status as wards of the United States. With this resolution, the House of Representatives and the Senate announced that the support for a new Indian policy termination under the policy Indian status as government wards would be ended as soon as possible, and Native Americans would assume all responsibilities of full citizenship. 1953. So before then, they were wards of the state, and they understood it. And then they passed the law, House Current Resolution 108. Now, the U.S. wasn't stopping. They wanted to make sure they had full control, and no one here was going to play the sovereign game with them. They said America not big enough to share it with somebody else, especially somebody who I can step on. So they came out with the termination policy, the Indian termination policy. It intended to assimilate Native Americans, and those that opposed it, well, they took your backing, they took your money, and they cut them off, right? Especially the tribes that didn't want to come in and reorganize their contracts. They felt as though they wanted to hold on to the old way or the way that they were used to doing things. The U.S. said, you got me fucked up. Debo. So the Termination Act attempted to stop Indians and terminated tribes from receiving any special treatment because of their status as Indians. All that shit out the window. I put you here to take the place of these niggas. And now you done got too big for your britches. You talking back and shit. Well, check this out, homie. I'm defunding you. We shutting the program down. The effect tribal governments, which had existed for centuries, lost more of their authority over tribal members and their recognition by the United States as sovereign entities. That's out. U.S. said it's out. Bitch, you don't talk back to me. And I made you. Could have left your ass swinging from a tree back in the island somewhere. The terminated tribes and Indians also lost their state tax exemption. America didn't play with them. Hey, this was in the 60s, 70s. They came and took all that back and say, you gonna get under paperwork and you gonna mine. Because if these niggas come, y'all can't fight. They already knew the natives can't fight. Y'all ain't gonna help me. These niggas gonna come in here looking for their shit. So yeah, we got to get y'all right. So after that termination happened, perhaps even greater concern involved Indians involved that the termination ended their recognition as Indians. The trust relationship of the United States ceased, and legally they became no different from any other citizen living here. So I don't know what all of this sovereign shit come from. If y'all look up today on the news, y'all see ICE is running into a lot of these. ICE is running into these reservations. Man, look, they ain't coming in our hood. They ain't knocking on our doors or none of that. They running in these reservations, and these people are being told to keep their cards on them. And it ain't working. The U.S. do not respect it. So you also had the urban Indian relocation. We had a thing called the Great Migration, right? So we had one in 1800, Pap Singleton, them brought them up to Kansas. Then you had him and the buddy out of the Enemy Church out of Louisiana, pushing a lot of people out to the West Coast. Coming back in under the 40s, during the World Wars, a lot of people was, migrating around America, Detroit, Chicago, going west. A lot of people going out west. Shout out to Los Angeles, man. Shout out to Portland, Oregon, man. Shout out to those West Coast places, Vegas, Arizona, Colorado. A lot of our people went out there and relocated, for a better life and, more money, more opportunity. My family even went out their way to California looking for those same things. They had the skills, They went out there and got paid. Now, we're finna close it out. Now, right here, I want to show how these tribes actually need us. It became a time they felt as though they didn't need us, and now it became a time where they need us. So if we look back, 1794, the Cherokee, we use Cherokee for example real quick. 1794, the Cherokee government was created. Anybody can jump on their phone right now, type in 1794 Cherokee government. It's going to last from 1794 to 1907. 1907, what happened? Oklahoma came into statehood. It was no longer listed as Indian territory. From that, we're going to see them take away a lot of the people Indian recognition here. So in July 1827, we're going to see the Constitution of the Cherokee going to take place. This new Constitution was directly modeled after the U.S. Constitution. A lot of people don't know when the U.S. got all of their paperwork right, from the Declaration of Independence to their Constitution, is going to mirror the Indians, period. Great Law of Peace Constitution. When they were created, the Cherokee government was created. Cherokee government damn near had the same equivalent of power that the U.S. had. That's why in the Constitution they are to remain a government relationship with the Indians. No one else, no Moors, no Hebrew, no, none of that shit is in the Constitution. We talking about the law of the land right here. But the Cherokee today are one of the most powerful nations. They have one of the most they're one of the largest tribes here. But you know what's crazy about that? A lot of people be telling me, speak your language. Out of those millions of Cherokees here, less than 200 people speak the language. Can't get an amen. And they teach it in school. They're not learning this shit in the house from mom and daddy talking to them. No, they go to school and learn it. The nicknames that they get, Flying Dove, Turtle Bear, you know, all of this crazy shit, right? These are tribal names that they adopt in school, still to this day. They mama don't get them that shit when they drop them off at the YMCA and all of that. And these people are getting paid by the government to create these languages, to create these curriculums, and give these people identity. Same thing they did in boarding school. But I want to show you something. We are the people. Y'all drop a 1 in the chat if y'all know someone or have someone in y'all family named Bear, named Turtle, named Dog, named Frog, Bam Bam, the Pookie, and so on and so forth. These are regular. This is regular to us, and we get it out the house. You named that as a baby. You get those nicknames from your attributes as a baby. If you run fast, if you tall, your name Tree or some shit. Like, it's so many things. That's just our culture. That's how we get down. Well, they actually have to go to school or to these after school programs and shit that's put on by the tribe because the state are paying them to try to indoctrinate these people. And today we're in a different world where our culture is so prominent that people want to rap, they want to look like us, and they're not really into that shit. They're not sitting down in school to get that. You feel me? They talking like us, want to shoot dice, want to play basketball, get their haircuts like us, dress like us, these things. Let's walk. So the new Constitution, the Cherokee is going to come back. If we see they're going to create a Constitution 1827, well, they're going to actually come back in September the 5th, 1975. And they're going to ratify their Constitution again. In 1976, they're going to create a Constitution that's going to kick out all of the melanated people that look like us out of the tribe. A constitutional committee convened in 1999 to create a new Constitution. In 2003, Cherokee voted overwhelmingly and accepted it. So they got a new constitution in 2003, then 2006. All right. Now, in May 12, 2021, the insured citizens of the descendants of black people once enslaved by tribal citizenship known as freedmen. Now they're going to bring them in. Under the new constitution, most voters, hold on. So in 1970s, a decade of oppressive rule by Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BI, with eight races, the BIA, the Cherokee reorganized as a tribal nation. God damn. Why are they continuing to reorganize? We see their first elected chief is a white man, William Keeler. Now they're going to reorganize, because in 1943, they devised a plan to say, let's kick all the niggas out of the tribe, even though the niggas were the ones holding things together. Well, in the 70s, they had a change of heart from the Creeks to the Seminoles, the Chickasaw, motherfucking Choctaw. They all going to come back and they're going to kick our people out of the tribes, receiving no benefits or nothing. Now, choosing their own leaders. Okay, they're going to choose their own leaders, allowing citizenships the right to vote under a new constitution. Members first voted to oust intermarried whites, then freedmen, on the basis they had no blood connection to the tribe. No blood connection, but today, Chuck Hoskins on Tulsa, Channel 25 Tulsa, had our people out there with shackles on their hand and their feet talking about they're walking the Trail of Tears. And for Black History Month, they're going to celebrate their slaves. And they're going to own up to owning these slaves. But when we go in the damn records, their name ain't nowhere. And Chuck himself got a fake genealogy, a fake chief they found. Now, when you watch the video on Chuck, it's on the Cherokee Nation YouTube. You can watch it. Put in Chuck Hoskins genealogy. It's going to pop right up. You're going to see a white man did his genealogy, and he's in his 40s and 50s and just now finding this shit out. And then they're going to say there's not any records on him because he didn't exist. So they got a fake genealogy in people so they can try to establish themselves in the story as they destiny swap with us, as they kick the elders out of the tribes. Now, under new constitution, members voted, to oust the freedmen on the basis no blood connection. But after 30 years of banishment, the Cherokee High Court ruled that the freedmen could re-enroll. We just seen the Creek Indians as well get theirs. Supreme Court came down on it. Why? Because they had documentation that their family signed the treaties. And this is what I'm saying. A lot of us, we have bought into a story that the oppressor gave to us. I don't give a fuck if that nigga look like us. That's what really brought y'all over the top. That's why Jesse Jackson, a black activist, civil rights activist, but on top of that, he was what? Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton. They're going to use the church and religion to control us and to choose our leaders. And all of these niggas are already probably in the files on tape. We know Al Sharpton had got caught with drugs. They put the drugs on him and arrested him around the corner. Now you work for me. You compromise. Let's walk. So there's great migration that was taking place that we spoke about. And this is when Johnson, he signed the Indian Civil Rights Act. Now, this Civil Rights Act was not for niggas. A lot of people said that. But this was put into place in case they're going to give this status to the Native Americans. Now, if you guys come back, they have a law on it called the Indian Civil Rights Act. Your ass will go fed if you go fucking with them people. Now, Congress passed Indian Civil Rights Act to ensure that American Indians is afforded the broad constitutional rights secured to other Americans. Same thing that they did with the small hats under Trump, he did with them. Same thing the Asians got, talking about, when the Asians came out saying that they were being oppressed by us, all this type of shit, right? So they put laws on them. This did not apply to us. That's why you've seen on the TV screen people getting water hosed down, the cops coming through beating them with billy clubs, sicking dogs on them. If this act was for us, then we would have got that. None of that would have happened. No different in Reconstruction. What they did was boosted these people up, put around them a hedge of protection under the law, so that when we come back for our shit, it they'll be protected by the government. Now, 69, you had during the students movement, you had Martin Luther King doing sit-ins, John Lewis and them, Freedom Riders. You had John Henry Clark and them and the Black Caucus of African Studies bust in and say that they wanted to teach their own history. You had in East LA, you had the Chicano walkouts. Well, these people that were built through this political movement, they're gonna go take over, occupy Alcatraz in 1969. And it was 89 Native Americans that supported Alcatraz Island. The protest was led by Richard Oakes, Lenanda Means. Okay, now let's walk. So this is them right here occupying Alcatraz. South San Francisco, right across there. Alcatraz was a prison that was deemed to be unescapable. You had people like Al Capone and things of this nature right here. A lot of these people in there. It's kind of similar to ADX, Colorado. Well, the guy that was running this movement, Russell Means, he was an activist, involvement in the American Indian movement. And what we find out is that he did not even have Native American ancestry. These are Hollywood Indians. He and a guy named Russell Means. Now, right here, you have Maria Cruz. Maria Cruz is the guy that made the Godfather. She did not want to give him. She was in the news back in the game for not wanting to present him with the award. Well, it's cool. She played Indian, called herself Little Feather, and was supposed to have been a Native American civil rights actor. Well, we weren't the only one gave bullshit ass leadership and fake people out here speaking for us. But following Little Feather's death, a Navajo author, Jacqueline Keeler, interviewed her biological sister, Rosaline Cruz, and who say their family does not have Native American ancestry. So this is being led by white people, and they're playing Indian because they got the feathers on in this fake ass attire, these dresses and these costumes, basically. Right here, you have Russell Means. Russell Means, he buried. His father was Eugene Means. His paternal grandfather is listed in the 1880 census as Austin Means, a white man born in Maine. Okay, so then you got Emmett Hawkins Russell. His grandmother, Neil Allen mother, was the daughter of Suzanne Bissonnette, born in Fort Laramie. That's where we defeated them. And they were mixed blood. A French woman named Julie, a French fur trader, Joseph Bissonnette, claimed Sunette was part of Gola Lakota, transferred that, find out, and then he said the mother was full brother true. Well, a lot of take the test says that it's not true. Russell Means, in reality, was a European descent. Most of the French Indian intermarriage on both paternal and maternal sides of the family. So this American Indian movement, these people were boosted up, put on the pedestal, and come back there of European descent and bloodline. And these are the people that led the movement into creating this Native identity. Not only that, but the ultimate puns in the game where YT people came and used these people as buffers and used our people in the civil rights era and had us confused and put us on Africa, all that money that they paid for these teachers to come out and teach us about this. They were paying them a lot of money. We see through this bill right here what actually took place. Bars.
Man, oh man. Yo, whoa, shit. That was thorough, y'all.
Man, if I had another day, Rich, I would put the videos in there. It would have really brought out the imagery.
Man, I want to do, because I gotta go soon. I want to do a quick Q&A. And we're gonna get straight to the Q&A from the family, because you got the chat extremely active.
Oh, turn
family,
it up.
Give me some good questions in the chat. I'm gonna get to a few questions before we get out of here, because I do want to. I see how active y'all are. I see how interested y'all are in the chat with what's being said. Wow, that one, man, we're gonna have to watch that one again, family. That was thorough. Topcatz, you did your thing. You did your thing, my brother.
Yeah, you told me.
Yo,
hey, I need you to do
Topcatz. I know real quick, but while they get their questions together, I know you did a lot of debates over at the House of Consciousness. Have you ever debated a Native American?
Yeah, I debated a few Native American elders, and basic card carrying Native Americans. But yeah, I've been in the paint with people who teach the languages over there, who teach the history and all of that. And I have them all recorded, but it didn't go how they thought it was gonna go. And in the end, they had a lot of respect for me. And one of the things they couldn't get around that jab, which was the documentation. Like I said, we are the most documented people here in America, and they had no documentation. And at the end of the day, documentation beat conversation. Bars.
Indeed. All right. Let's get to a couple of questions. I mean, the chat moving so fast, man.
Hey, y'all, put it in the super chat, y'all. Put it in the super chat so we can see y'all.
Let's get to this one, because I just seen this one on the screen. What is Talladega, Alabama's indigenous peoples actually called, or have we been paper genocided?
Well, you had a lot of different nations down there in the area, but Talladega itself is an Indian Indian word itself. But yeah, you had a lot of people down in that Alabama area down there. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Muskogees, a lot of Creeks. You had Choctaw, and even down there, you got Chickasaw, Alabama down there as well. So,
all right. Let me see. Somebody said, "Is that why
they put it in the super chat? Don't be scared."
Is that why they sent those NAs to Hampton University to cop our style? You know what?
Yeah, we wanted to. They wanted to civilize them, and the Carlisle School coming out of Philadelphia first. They brought some over, but the most prominent schools where we had, where we taught skills in the vocational areas, those would be the schools like Hampton and things of that nature. So that's what they really wanted, to get the skills so they can use them for their skill for cheap labor. And so they had to send them to the guards, mom and daddy, and we had to get them right.
Right. I think we got somebody in the chat saying that they're Native American. I want you, Sky Casey, ask me a question, not a troll question, but ask a legitimate question to Topcatz, educated question, instead of just,
in your feelings.
Yeah, instead of just being ask an educated question to Topcatz, and he'll be glad to a good one. Not.
But I speak on that a little bit, right?
Not just bullshit.
I speak on that little part. He said, host, just take a 23andMe and show you have native blood. Listen, family, do you know you can't detect native blood? I'll say this here. 23andMe sold all of the information anyway. So as we just seen that, just like we seen ICE running in you guys' reservation, we don't see them in our projects. We don't see them in our communities, our melanated communities. because we can't be deported anywhere.
So ICE was really getting them up out of here.
Even today, listen, they sent me something today.
Oh man, Sky, you got to be careful. I don't want them to come after you today, Sky.
Hey, yeah, Sky, you better. Hey, boy, you better pipe down. I know people.
See, this guy's not. You're not asking them real. All right, we're gonna move on. He's not gonna ask a good question. All right,
I know people, boy. You better chill out. Look, here they go right here. There was somebody sent me today. A state of panic. Why y'all in a state of panic? A state of panic. Native Americans left in the dark weeks after ICE arrest. Bro, be careful out there, fam. Why you coming in here to troll? This what you need to be worried about. They not asking you for a 23andMe, fam. You cannot pull out a 23andMe and get yourself out of this one. Nah. Yeah. They want you out. Yeah, see, yeah, okay. So, and they got an app out there too, brother. They got an app. They said if you turn yourself in, then you'll get free meals. They'll move you to somewhere with an air conditioner, and they'll give you the chance to come back to this country legally, brother. So next time it freezes over in the Bering Strait, walk back across here, man. But make sure you got your paperwork in order, fam.
Yeah, I got him up out of here. He didn't even want to ask an educated question, so I got him up out of here. All right, let's get to another one. Are the clan mothers in the process of preventing smart cities from being established, or are they in favor of? Do they play a role in helping them get built that we don't know about yet?
Well, I say this to that, fam. We shouldn't be sending our women out there, or our elders or grandparents out there to go talk to these people. You're a big, strong, able-bodied man like the rest of us. What we need to do is get together and organize and get our paperwork and everything that we need together so we can legally go in there. The law of the land is the treaties and the constitutions. These are things that we can use. Like I said, we're the most documented people here. Don't send your grandma out there to go fight with them people, man, and run her blood pressure up when that's why you're here. You feel me? That's why I'm here. And we got enough brothers to build an army to go in there and talk with some sense and put our resources in the right place and do the things that's necessary. So we don't have to send our women on the front line. They can be home cooking. They can have our water bottles and drinks while we out there on the front line putting it down, family. But never let the women go out there by themselves when they have us. You feel me?
Indeed. All right. Wait, I seen somebody said you didn't talk much on ancient America.
Well, that wasn't the topic, brother. I apologize, but Brother Rich, he specifically wanted to talk about this topic. You know, I opened up, I just wanted to show the presence and who were here first. I wanted to deal with first contacts, and I wanted to deal with first-hand accounts on the people that they encountered and how did they look when they got here to note that they were our people. That's why we went through education, politics, so on and so forth.
Indeed. All right. Next one, real quick. What are the links between the tribes in the Caribbean, places like Haiti and the mainland?
Well, again, in the beginning, when Columbus and them first came over under the Papa Bull, 1493, we will see that's the first place they would go is the Caribbean islands, Haiti, Cuba, so on and so forth, Jamaica, things of this nature. So you had representation the Taínos, the Arawaks, so on and so forth. So the links are that, yes, a lot of the Florida tribes, a lot of the coastal tribes, a lot of the people coming all the way up, even in the Carolinas, a lot of these people and the port cities that's occupied on the ports of the Gulf and things like this here, whether it be Mobile, Louisiana, and Galveston Island, you feel me, in Texas. These are some of the largest ports in the world, and these were a lot of people had in commerce, international trade. I give you an example before I get out of here. The Hope Wheels, even in Ohio, UNESCO, there are UNESCO sites right now, but the artifacts that they found in there showed a trade route from them directly to the Caribbean. So Yeah, that's the same people on the Caribbean island. People are not born on islands. Okay, they didn't originate on islands. They originated on mainlands, and then they pushed out into the islands. And so, yes, we would have a lot of bloodline ties and connections with those people. Again, through the wars of the colonies, King Philip, Tuscarora, Queen Anne wars, so on and so forth. A lot of these people were trafficked from the domestic slave trade in America and sent over to the Caribbean islands.
Somebody asks, what it do, Brother Rich, and salute Chief BCU. Were there any groups dwelling in the northern plains prior to Siberian natives coming about?
Well, this is the lowest place as you get up into that Canada region and all of that. Of course, you'll have people in pockets there, but they were mostly bi-coastal. You feel me? Indians were bi-coastal. They'll leave. A lot of conflicts happen because people leave and come back, and it's another group of people on their lands. So yeah, we know due to the weather conditions there, it can get cold in those parts right there. And so yeah, people will come back down the water, the river streams, and come back down to warmer climates, as we see like the sunny Southerners. They're up in upper colonies, and then they migrate back down into the Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia area.
All right. Do you think most so-called ancient history is really Indians' recent history, and the colonizers hijacked it and added 1,000 years to worship Europeans' fraudulent inverted image?
Well, I say this to that. Yeah, a lot of it is in Indian history. They put a lot of it on European or ancient medieval, Roman, things of that, Greece. But here, a lot of those people derive, like New York City. I did a bill last night showing that New York City and all of the Roman, New York City was a place of the a colony of the royal Holy Roman Empire. So yeah, Boston, Philadelphia, these type of things here, as we see those, the architect and also the statues. You go through Brooklyn and different things of this nature here. You can see the statues still standing today of Roman gear, Roman headgear, the eagles, griffins, all of these symbolisms that do come back from these past times. Now, as far as the colonizers hijacking and adding 1,000 years, that didn't come into the 20th century where they started. They cut off 1600 all the way up into then whitewashed it and killed a lot of the history. Yes, sir.
All right. A couple of more questions. If we're gonna do two more, how are we going to deal with our enemies in the White House, gangsters, to get our Black Indians land back, which they call America, Turtle Country?
Well, first off, we have to do the work. You know, I mean, we've been set back a lot of years. As Brother Rich opened up the show and spoke about Jesse Jackson and the end of an era. You know what I mean? End of a paradigm. That work that we've been doing, you know, looking into it and bringing forth information to the masses. Mentally, a lot of people start catching on mentally, and that right there, you know, starts a whole that helped usher in that era. So when you get more people vibrating on that frequency and thinking the same, well, those thoughts go into the universe, and that's what's creating this new paradigm. That's what helps push out and ushers in another day. So right now, just mentally, we're controlling the story, but yeah, as far as dealing with the White House, yeah, we got to do the work on finding out who we are, get our paperwork together, you know what I'm saying, as far as our story, who we are, treaties and things of this here, and then we can go in there and have a better conversation versus coming in there with a term that was given to us to make us a ward of the state. And yeah, we go in and show our work and our proof, and we see what the Creek just did. Even though they signed under Article 2, the door is still open for those that didn't sign to go into Article 4, where you are allotted land and sovereignty rights to occupy in your own form of government. So I think those are things we need to pick up since we got the history. Everyone's catching on now. So we need to concentrate and create bodies of people, think tanks, and the best way to go about those things.
Indeed. I seen earlier when you were talking, somebody said that they was sent a letter in 1992 saying we are not accepting Black Cherokees at this time.
Yeah, well, the Cherokee versus Nash, 2017, they actually, the Cherokee are the only out of the 5 civilized tribes who have let in, you said the black people, the Black Indians, the true traditional ones. And that was because they were owed a lot of money. They couldn't get the money from the U.S. because they didn't sign. So when they brought the Cherokees, the Black Cherokees or the true Cherokees in, now Trump gave them all of their money, hundreds of millions of dollars that are owed to you. They would have never got their money if you didn't sign up. The only thing I'll say to that is that we can get that money without them. We can get it without them. So we, like I said, think tanks, and in the future, a lot of us getting the information, finding out our story, we put those things together, lobby, and we out and go in there with a real strong case.
Indeed. So do you think all the world in the stage comes from all these staged so-called historic pictures or events? I don't know if you understand.
Yeah, it's a part of it. I mean, the imagery is real. That's why Hollywood, that's why they want to control those things. For as the music industry, as we see a lot of the artists are selling their masters and their so they want to control those things. They want to control the imagery that's taking place. I mean, that's how it was brought on us, for as cowboys, for as you see the Hebrew Israelites out here dressing like Moses on the 10 Commandments. They saw that on Hollywood. Shout out to the Hebrew. But they got that out of Hollywood, And so that's very important, man, how they can use imagery to, have us buy into it, like the root story and things like this here, to have us buy into it. And so that's what a lot of you'll see people with these big war bunnies and all of that trying to dress like out the TV screen, and all you got to do is go back and look at your great grandparents and all of that, and you will see they didn't dress like that. We so close.
Don't have to. Sorry, y'all call up, man.
Yeah, I thought about him too, Rich. When I just said that.
Captain. Shout out Captain, man.
Yeah, shout out Captain is all love.
You on the internet putting in work, man, Captain. Yo, but what's interesting, Topcatz? When people are finding out all this American Indian history from so-called black folks, it seems like the Hebrew thing pops up alongside with it in America.
Nah, don't do that. Don't do that.
I see some TikToks, man. I see some TikToks.
Watch this here.
Yeah.
Look, I want to make a public service announcement right now. If you want to be a Christian, man, just go back to church. A lot of us grew up in the church. We understand that, and y'all don't want to let the Bible go. Listen, homie. Bloodline has nothing to do with religion. Okay? Bloodline has nothing to do with religion. You can be an Indian, and you can choose Islam, Christianity, Hebrew, Islam, or what. But don't bring that over here while I'm over, because if I catch you, it's gonna be a problem. Make you stand on everything you talking about. And to bring that up real quick before we get off of that, you brought up Tazoriak. I had Captain. It was 2 captains, one out of Memphis. I can't think of one name, and Katazai. And it was a 2-on-1. I beat them both down to the ground trying to bring in that Indians or Hebrews and all that. Yeah, I seen the debate. I tore them up. Myself 2-on-1. Then I told Tazariak, "Hey, what's up? You ain't gonna come get that back for your boy? You know he be with Katazai. That's Katazai's best friend. You gonna let me do him like that, Tazariak? He told me something real. He said, "Hey, Topcatz, that ain't my lane."
Oh man, Topcatz, they said this is one of my best shows, man. That's what they saying in the chat.
Okay, turn up. That's super dope, man. I miss being over here in the Empire, man. Yeah, I can't wait to get back over here.
Now you did your thing tonight, my brother. I definitely gotta run that back. Wonderful presentation, so wonderful. You had the imposters in the chat mad. He was probably drinking alcohol or something.
Yeah, you know they got a problem on that. Yeah, they on that ice real bad, and they alcoholics. You know,
So,
they can't build a house on the reservation. You know they don't own the land. They can't go build a new house if they want a new model or nothing. They don't own the land. So yeah, it's like being in prison.
Wow.
They should go back to their country. They should go back, cross the ice bridge, go back to Siberia. I think it's cold out there. Take a jacket. Yeah, I think they'll have a better chance back in China. They'll have a better chance back in Mongolia. And yeah, man, go back out there in the mountains. I know it ain't nothing to do. Get you an Alaskan husky, man. Everything gonna be all right. Y'all ain't got a chance here in America, boy.
Shit, man. Hey, Topcatz, man, leave your information. Let them know everything you got going on so the people can get in contact with you, my brother.
All right, yeah, y'all can check me out. You can choose, lose, stay confused, man. You can find me right here, Legendary Topcat on YouTube. Or you can go to BigChiefUniversity.com, and we got a store over there, man, with American Indian merch. These frames right here, my own frames right here, BCU. Yeah, we got everything BCU, everything that you could think of, and we building it up. Y'all go check it out over there, man. And if y'all want to know more about these type of topics, man, we also have books. We author 6 books. We just had one come out. Hold on, this right here too. Yeah, y'all go check out the Indian Bible. I'm not black, I'm Indian. You can get it on Amazon. Or you can get an autographed copy from me. This the one just dropped, The Untold History of True American Indians right here, Reclaiming Identity and Legacy. Y'all can go check that out. We also have a course curriculum for that just dropped too. So y'all go check me out, BigChiefUniversity.com, man.
Indeed. Listen, I appreciate you, my brother. We're gonna, I'm gonna look more into, we were talking on the phone about some things, Mexico and some other things. So I'm gonna be chopping it up with you about that soon on the phone, man. So
you want to ask them? Would they be interested? You want to wait? We ain't
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Let me wait a little while.
It's still early in the year.
Yeah. Let me get some stuff together.
Okay.
I do want to see that. I do want to visit that place we was talking about. Definitely,
man. That'll be super live right there. Yeah.
Shit, man. All right, we getting out of here, family. Somebody said, can you pin his information? I'll have him text me his information, and I'll put it in the comment section after the video, so you can visit the comment section after the video or the description and get all the Topcatz information. But I appreciate you, my brother. I'm gonna talk to you soon.
I appreciate you, Rich.
All right, peace. All right, family. I'm about to get out of here. That was an absolute magnificent show. Shout out to Topcatz. I will be back. Today's Friday. I will be back probably Monday. I'm gonna take the weekend off. I will be back Monday. But wow, he put in work for over 2 hours. Like Topcatz put in work tonight. So shout out to Topcatz, man. I want all of y'all to follow the brother. I'm gonna have him text me all his information, and I'll put it in the description and in the comment section of this video. But with that being said, man, I want to thank all of y'all for tuning in. Had a great time tonight. Shout out to everybody for watching. Appreciate all the support, all the attention on this video, and share this video with friends and family so we could tap back into who we've been lied to so much, so thoroughly. Like I said, they've had their foot on our necks nonstop, aggressively. So yeah, let's tap back into who we are. And when we're doing that, so yeah, but it was good. It was good. I'm getting out of here, y'all. I'm gonna see y'all Monday, all right, family? Everybody have a good night.
Before there was cigarettes, before there were brands, there was the leaf. Tobacco is one of the oldest forms of spirit communication known to humanity. Long before modern times, it was understood as a living messenger, a way for human intention to travel beyond the visible world and return with meaning. In the oldest traditions, tobacco was never a habit. It was a bridge, not something used to escape life, but something used to speak with it. Our ancestors knew breath as spirit itself, and smoke was breath-given form. When the leaf touched fire, it awakened. When guided by breath, it carried thought into the unseen. In that moment, intention became vapor, and prayer learned how to rise. It was never about getting high. It was about clarity, connection, making the invisible visible. That's the memory the leaf still carries. Radio cigars.
Radio cigar. Radio cigar. Radio cigar.